Hello and welcome to another edition of Brexit Reality with Graham Hughes. It's Tuesday the 19th of January 2021. I don't need this in here anymore. I can just take it out. Sorry about that. That made a horrible noise. Hello. Welcome. Taki says, hello Graham. I'm so happy that Biden is going to get inaugurated soon. Yes, I think you and the entire world are pretty happy about that, except for Vladimir Putin. I believe that Trump's approval rating is nosedived into the 20s. It's in the 20s now. People, only 20-something% of Americans think that he's done a good job. That's what happens when you betray your own base. Anyway, so moving swiftly on. John says hello. Freckle Puny says hello. And Maximilian says hello. Woo, Brexit, Europe's greatest entertainment these days. Yes, indeed it is. Not for us, trapped here behind the Gammon Curtain, where everything is a little bit crap, to put it mildly, where we have decided that we don't want to trade with the rest of the world anymore, because we'd rather just trade with ourselves, but not Northern Ireland, so just 3 of the parts that make up the United Kingdom, not the 4th part, because, Brexit. So over the weekend, obviously, loads of news about fishing. There was a fishing protest yesterday, where the very people, some of them, who voted for Brexit, were held up as a talisman above the whole cause of Brexit. Vote for Brexit, and we'll save the fish, it said. We'll save the fish. All the fish will be saved. Well, they have. They have been saved. They've saved their British fish, because now they're in the ocean unmolested by fishermen who can't fish them anymore because they've told their customers to F off. Not a clever thing to do. They've made it more expensive for their customers to buy their stuff in a highly competitive market. Not very smart, that, really, is it? But, give them... You can't criticise people who voted for Brexit because they have magnificently, like the vast majority of them, have magnificently ignored all the warnings that people like myself, and people watching this, all our family and friends who voted to remain, all the warnings we gave them. They called us traitors. They called us enemies of the people. They called us all kinds of names. But now it's hitting, isn't it? Brexit reality. Yeah, so you can't give them any crap because obviously it took a lot of courage and guts to just, crawl on their hands and knees behind the rich, the powerful, the aristocracy, the elites. It takes a lot of gumption to do that, to just do what you're told by idiots. And know that those people are idiots and know that they don't have your best interests at heart and yet go along with it anyway. And then go, oh, what's just happened? Oh, I've lost my business. Oh, I've lost my industry. Oh, I've lost all my trade. And very soon it's going to be, dude, where's my country? Because the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland will no longer exist. Enjoy your passport. Enjoy your blue passport. It will be the last British passport you'll ever have. Unfortunately, today I want to talk about shipping, but I'm going to just jump into the comments here. I've made the text a little bit bigger. Hopefully it's easier to read now for people looking on small screens. It's probably too small to read on your phone, probably still. I don't know. Freckle Puny says Obama's approval rating was 60%. The degenerate life form Trump is going to be so pissed off at that. I just want him to cry himself to death one day in jail. Preferably. Trump leaving with an approval rate of 29%. Jesus Christ, that is just pathetic, isn't it? Just absolutely pathetic. He's managed to piss off all the people. Well, he pissed half the country off when he got elected because they all hated him to start with. But he's actually managed to piss off half of his base. Half of the people who literally voted for him think he's crap. So good luck getting back from that one, the Donald. The 3D Barons said the internet has made a backup of all Parler videos on storming the Capitol. There's a link there. If you're looking at this on, I think that's Twitch, you should be able to go to that link there. projects.propublica.org/Parler Capitol videos should give the FBI some work. Yeah, everyone who stormed Parliament, American Parliament, Congress, should be arrested and put in jail. And ironically enough, the fact that Trump over the summer signed an executive order to protect racist statues. He couldn't actually put, I want to protect racist statues into the order. So he said he wanted to protect federal property. And it turns out that Capitol Hill is federal property. Oh dear, they face up to 10 years imprisonment for what they did. They're the ones who didn't kill anyone. I bet the Tories are already working on a scheme to rent the rotten fish back to the fishermen. Yeah, the fishermen probably be like, yay, great, you've taken me livelihood, you've taken me business, you've taken everything I know and love away from me, but I still love you because you're posh, you're rich, you got loads of money. Did you hear that the Deloitte, what are they called, the consultants, 900 of them getting paid £1,000 of taxpayers' money per day to consult over a track and trace app that doesn't effing work. I read today 26 billion has been spent on the track and trace app now. Which is more than double what I was thinking. It's quite impressive, really. You watch Ocean's 11, you think, wow, they stole $1 million. That's really impressive. That's really impressive. They did that. They stole all that money. And that's a tiny little fraction of 1% at 26 billion. Suckers. Fishermen, let's piss off 80% of our market. Someone's going to come on now and go, well, actually, Graham, in Ocean's 11, they stole X amount. Yeah, but I'm talking about the 1950s Ocean 11 with the Rat Pack. At least the fish are happy to be British, yes. The fishest fish. The fascist fish. And it's strange because Nigel Farage has been strangely quiet, hasn't he? He hasn't really said much about shipping. He's wanging on about, lockdowns, immigrants. He's not mentioned the fish. Maybe he's fallen out of love with fish. Maybe he won't appreciate the men and fish calendar that I sent him for Christmas with half-naked Tory MPs mocked up, deepfakes, with, various loving positions with large fish. David Dill Latimer says, rejoiner here in Malaysia. I love Malaysia. I've been to Malaysia, Peninsular Malaysia. I've been to Sarawak and to Sabah a couple of times, actually. I've climbed Mount Kinabalu, or Kinabalu on Borneo. I climbed it on my birthday, actually. That's cool. I thought I'd have a beer at the summit. Really bad idea. Don't have a beer at the summit of a really high mountain. just don't. Just don't do that. Anyway, yeah. Also, I was staying in Kuala Lumpur and the Sepang, is it the Sepang Grand Prix was on? And the owner of the hostel that I was staying in managed to basically blag us tickets for bugger all. And we all went along and watched Jensen Button come second, I think. It was a long time ago. I'm really old. Shut up. Right. Stuart Woodrow says, the fishing industry makes up about the same GDP as the UK's lawnmower industry. Both are equally screwed right now. Yes, because we can't export anything. So anything we made for the export market is not getting out. And anything that we make that's not made 100% in the United Kingdom is stuffed. Mostly because of shipping, which is what I wanted to talk about. David's back. He's saying that he loves me. David, calm down. My girlfriend reads this, okay, and she's going to get very jealous. So, thank you. I'm humbled by your appreciation of me. Just. Bayerberg says there are chocolate substitutes and there are Frank Underwood substitutes. Substitutes. One of those is starting his last day in office. I don't really follow that. Frank Underwood is Kevin Spacey's character from the American House of Cards, which pissed me off. I mentioned this a while ago, I think. A lot of broadcast media at the time of the last election, the 2016 election, they had this, first of all, South Park, etc., had this false equivalence. And also House of Cards, which was, I think it was executively produced by David Fincher, of Alien 3, 7, Zodiac, Fight Club fame, Panic Room. Him and Bo Williamson, I think his name is, put together this show, and it was based on the British TV series House of Cards, which is based on British books, in which the bad guy was a conservative. He was a right-wing conservative. So when he did things like, I don't know, killing a journalist by throwing him off the top of the House of Parliament, you thought, well, that's what I'd expect a Tory to do. But what he did with Frank Underwood is he made him a Southern Democrat. So basically, it fed into that kind of idea on the right that all left-wing people are hedonistic vampires who just go around doing hedonistic vampire things. Wasn't great. Not helpful. Not helpful. People who made the American version of House of Cards. It was a right-winger in the original book. It was a right-winger in the original BBC series. It should have been a right-winger in America. But no, because they had the left-winger in the presidency at the time, so they thought, we'll do it that way round. Instead, that blew up in their face, didn't it? Anyway, good job, Dido's husband looks into corruption. Yeah, that's from Ben Lassila. Yes, Dido Harding's husband is in charge of corruption. Yeah, actually, no, he's in charge of corruption, not anti-corruption, just corruption. Ireland's track and trace system cost around €750,000, and it works. That's from John Barleycorn. One of the women, this is from the Freckle Puny, one woman involved in storming a parliament stole Nancy Pelosi's laptop and attempted to sell it to the Russians. Such patriots. So Parler's back up again, by the way, for any Nazis out there who want to be Nazis. And it's now housed in Russia. It tells you everything you need to know, really, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Yes. You're helping the Russians. Enjoy helping the Russians. Yeah, gang of quislings, spivs, bloody traitors, Vichy French, that's what they are. Everyone who supports Brexit still, everyone who still supports Trump, Vichy French. A lot of them. They just teamed up with the Nazis. First of all you capitulate, then you collaborate. Anyway, let's move on. Ocean's 11 was 1960, Graham. Oh, look at that. Straight in there. Pedantic as Sheffield from Neil. 1960. Sorry. Well, it's filmed in the 60s. 50s, sorry. Filmed in the 50s. Released in the 90s. I'm sticking with it. Any word from Kieran? No, Neil. N Fox. Mr. Fox. No, he is. He's in Spain. I haven't heard from him. I just keep seeing pictures of magnificent. Oh, I've lost my chat. Okay, reconnection successful. I should be back. Oh, no, but now Restream Chat wants me to re-log in. Sorry, people. You're just going to have to wait for me to log back into the chat so I can chat with you. Well, I can't see it on the screen, but it's really small. Just one second. Yes. I've looked into getting another line put into the house, but obviously because of COVID, people don't want to come to the actual house to actually do anything, and they're saying they only do stuff if it's outside. But we should be able to get something sorted in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. Right. David Falconer asks, what are your thoughts, Graham, on... Yes, stop playing Fortnite. What are your thoughts on Bojo's mission to make Britain a low-tax, low-resolution Singapore... Low-resolution Fox. Low-resolution Singapore of Europe. David, it's completely bonkers. It could never work because Singapore has a very different history, and Singapore is one of the most geographically advantageous places in the entire world. Some ridiculous proportion of world shipping stops in Singapore. Various reasons for that. Obviously, it's on the tip of the peninsula of Malaysia, and any ship going through the Straits of Malacca usually stops there on the way up round to China. So anything coming round from China across the into the Indian Ocean, so anything going to Europe, anything going to Africa, the west coast of Africa, anything going through the Suez Canal, anything going to India will always go. They'll stop. They'll stop in Singapore. Anything coming from Australia usually stops in Singapore, and it means that shipping there is absolutely massive. It's absolutely massive, which is good because I'm talking about shipping today. I've got new messages coming up, so I don't know if I've lost my connection. Oh yeah, I have lost my connection because I'm looking at this and I'm seeing new things saying you're back, gone again. I'm gone again. Right. I think I'm just gonna have to change when I do this to another time. I think because I'm trying to do it during the day. I'm literally got the kids doing schoolwork online. Got like so many devices online at any one time. It's becoming a bit of a nightmare. I'm really sorry, really, really sorry. Believe me, this is much more frustrating for me than it is for you, I assume. I like to think. I'm just going to go into the chat app. Just bringing it up online here so I can see it. Open in browser. There we go. Chat app. Okay. Let's chat app, baby. Oh, yeah. There we go. It says it's waiting for new messages. Hopefully they'll filter through. Good. Thanks, mate. Glad you're better now. What? Hey? Oh, you're talking to Plum Duff. Sorry. Hey, Graham, could you give a shout out for the hashtag Clown for Every Town protest on the 21st of January, please? Trying to find a new safe ways to protest during COVID times. So what is it? A clown, hashtag clown for every town. So is there going to be a clown in every, like a Pennywise clown with a balloon in every, oh my God. Do it in the evening, says Pete Robbins. Yeah. Use at 10 when the kids are supposed to be asleep. Lol. Yeah, I'm usually a bit luckier at night. It tends to go off less, but this is a reoccurring problem. I spent all this morning basically working on my router, trying to get it just perfect so it wouldn't go off when I was doing this. But here we are. It's gone off. Need to make a time log of when it goes off and what was turned on or off upstairs, because this includes the printer. Like if you turn the printer on, it goes, oh, we're going to connect to Wi-Fi, and then it kicks me off. Daniel Slack, let's get back into it. Let's just pretend it was a commercial break, except you didn't have to listen to really annoying adverts and jingles. Daniel Slack says, I don't understand why we can't be in the Schengen area and stay out of the EU like Switzerland and Norway. This all in and all out is not acceptable going forward for people or business. It'd be difficult to be part of the Schengen area and not be part of the single market or customs union. I mean, I think I know Switzerland's part of Schengen, and so's Norway, but one of them is part of the single market and the other one's part of the customs union, but not vice versa. So they do have problems at the borders. RC says it's because to be in Schengen you must accept freedom of movement, which the bigots don't want. That's very true. Can you taste your tea now, Graham? No, not really. I can't really smell it. And most of the taste of tea is the smell. So, no. But also, I can't smell stuff. So, like, if there's a disgusting job that needs doing, I could go and do it because I can't smell. You see, I'd make a great mortician or sewer engineer at the moment. I guess with shipping, the problems, the Tories say it's okay because at least they be happy British ships, even though there aren't any. Well, the biggest shipping companies in the world are like Maersk and CMA CGM. Maersk are Danish and CMA CGM are French. There's Hamburg Sud, which I think are German. And this is the way the world works at the moment. We do have this international effort to get stuff around the world. And I want to explain a little bit about this because I think it's important you know how things work. So you have a ship, and the ship might be owned by, say, a Greek company that owns ships, maybe builds them. Probably doesn't build them, just asks people to build them for them. So that company has a ship, and then they allow people to rent it out effectively. They're the charterers, and they're your big companies like Maersk that you've heard of. So if you want to try and get on board a cargo ship to go traveling around the world, you have to get permission off the owners and the charterers and the master of the vessel, the captain. And also you need to sometimes get the permission from an agency, which might be in another country, who employs the crew or the officers on board. And you also need to sign off from the local agent in whatever town you're in, begging to get on a ship. It's a bit of a convoluted process, and that's just to get a person on board. Now, what happens is these containers, there's two main types of containers. You've got your 20-foot ones and you've got your 40-foot ones. You've seen these. They're on my picture there on the boat. and they're standard units. So they're called TEU units, which is just 20-foot equivalent units. And ships these days, these sort of post-Panamax ship can hold over 10,000 of these. It's like 17,000 of these boxes on board the ships. They can go through. They're called post-Panamax ships because the Panamax ships used to be the biggest ship that you could have that could get through the locks at Miraflores in that country. Bolivia. No, not that one. Panama. That's the one. So basically, Panamax ships could go through there. But about 5 years ago, they opened up new locks, which were wider, and that allows even bigger ships. So we have post-Panamax now, which is the size that can go through the new locks in Miraflores. Now, shipping around the world is... it's one of those things. In one respect, it is incredibly cost-effective as a means of getting stuff around the world. And this is why, I've gone on about this before, landlocked countries are damned by geography because they have to try and get the stuff that's on these ships. So say you have a big ship, turns up with 17,000 containers on board. And this never happens. They won't all have stuff in. Some of them will be empty. Some of them will be going back somewhere. Some of them will be for the next port along. I mean, it's all logistics. But say, imagine you had this ship and all 17,000 of them needed to get into Burkina Faso or into Rwanda. They would have to come into the port of another country. And that other country would have to inspect what's coming in because they don't want to allow just anything coming into their country. There might be tariffs to pay. There might be customs agents to pay. There might be a lot of things that you've got to go through. You might have to work out the rules of origin. And someone's got to pay for all this. And the country that you're literally transporting the stuff through is like, damned if I'm paying for your stuff. Why should my money go towards helping another country? And so as a result, they basically just charge what they like. Then you've got to put all that stuff onto a train if you're lucky enough to have a train line. If you don't have a train line, you've got to put them all on trucks. You probably, even if you've got a train line, you've got to put some of them on trucks. So you've got to get 17,000 trucks worth of stuff into Burkina Faso. So you can either get a few trucks making thousands of journeys, and those roads aren't usually great. They're not great. I mean, that's not really the case in the UK, but what we're seeing now is because of the same problems that face developing nations, like, you know, the countries that encompass the bottom billion people in the world in terms of economics. One of the big problems is just getting stuff in and out, and people actively avoid all the countries actively avoid putting stuff through those countries if they can get away with it. And now we're seeing this with shipping in the United Kingdom. So you are seeing lots of lorries to start with now bypassing the UK, because if you are taking something from the Republic of Ireland, trying to get it to France or to the Netherlands, it's now going to take you longer to take it through the United Kingdom, and it'll cost you a lot more money because truck drivers aren't paid by the mile. They're paid by they're not paid by the hour. They're paid by the mile. So basically, they're sitting in a lorry for 3 days. They're not getting paid for that. So lorry drivers are now saying, I'm not going to the UK, not going to the UK. But that's lorries. I want to talk a bit more about shipping here, which is a little bit different, because the idea is it's just, point A, point B. You put your containers on, take them off. What's the problem? Well, the problem's this. At the moment, we have got half of our trade, half of stuff coming into our country comes from the EU. Now, that stuff didn't used to have to be checked. As I said yesterday, it would be the same as if you were trying to get someone from Liverpool to Manchester, if you were trying to get from Liverpool to Madrid. There was no customs. There was no customs charges. There was no checking to see what the rules of origin are. Now there is, and those checks cost time and money. Now, here we are. In just 3 weeks into, not even 3 weeks yet, less than 3 weeks into Brexit, and people are saying this is teething problems. It's not, because this is normality. This kind of thing, shipping, yeah, that's normality. And this idea that we're going to have free ports and that's going to somehow make loads of jobs. We used to have free ports. I mean, there's nothing in the EU stopping us from having free ports, and we used to have them, and then we sacked them off in 2012 because we found they weren't cost effective. So I was like, oh, okay, great, not cost effective, so we'll get rid of them. And now we want to bring them back. And it's another one of these rules that we could have done under the EU, like our vaccine rollout could have been done while we were still in the EU. We could have had blue passports while we were still in the EU. We could have renegotiated our fishing waters while we were still in the EU. And all these lies that we were told that we couldn't do this unless we were part of the EU. The only thing that we can do as independent, a country that isn't part of the EU now, but in Europe, is we can get inferior trade deals with everyone that we had a better trade deal with through the EU, because we have less people. We have less money than the EU because we're smaller. See? Big, small, far away. Anyway, apparently Gibraltar has just joined Schengen, I hear, meaning EU citizens can freely enter the territory with ID cards, presumably, whereas Brits need to produce a passport. Yes, David, that's completely correct. Because, don't forget, Gibraltar voted 96% to stay in the EU for good reason. They understand what the EU means and what it's done for the people of Gibraltar, which is basically everything. That border that is open with Spain is open because of the EU. That was EU pressure back when it was the EEC in the 1980s, putting pressure on the Spanish government, which had only just woke, we'd only just thrown off the shackles of who was the dictator of F, begins with F. I've forgotten his bloody name now. Franco, that's it. It doesn't just thrown off the shackles of the Franco-fascist government. And the EU managed to get them to say, look, we're going to open this border with Gibraltar and just try and trade freely. And it did, and it worked. It worked. And the people of Gibraltar know this, and they really appreciate it. And so it's one of those things now where people go, what did the EU ever done for us? And then you can say, well, they did all this stuff. And then you go, the big one is 2 billion. If someone asks you what the EU ever did for us, say, well, we got £2 billion worth of trade a week out of our membership, which only cost us 200 million. So, net profit there. We could be, if we had that trade still going on at 100%, we could still probably afford a track and trace system under this Conservative government. But there you go. Stuart Woodrow says, last I heard about a week ago, the cost of shipping a container from China to the UK is 10 times what it was this time last year. That might well be true. I mean, shipping has been really hit by COVID all around the world. I mean, any kind of transportation, logistics, people going on holiday, it's all been hit. Tourism. G&T says, I don't think the UK has deep enough ports to take these huge ships, hence Rotterdam is the European distributor for all imports, then smaller ships transfer to the UK. Liverpool recently had an upgrade to the Seaforth docks, which allow them to take much bigger ships than before, but I think the super big ships can still only go to Rotterdam, which is the biggest port in the world, apparently, which is funny because I thought that would have been Singapore, but so when we're talking about making Britain attractive, so this is what I was going to come to about the Singapore thing and also talking about shipping. The idea that stuff will come into Britain from other countries around the world and then be transported onto other ships or trucks or lorries, sorry, I should say. I'm not American. Or trains to go around Europe, that's not going to happen. So that is a huge revenue stream, like a real life revenue stream that Brexit has abandoned. So if we wanted to become more like Singapore, then we can't now because we've got rid of that. Because it's not cost effective and we don't do anything unless it's cost effective in the world. Look at MySpace. And then you've got the other factor of Singapore, which is it's big for selling and buying stuff like shares and that. And the UK now has done away with 6 billion euros of share trades from EU companies that used to be traded in London, and they're not being traded in London anymore. And it's 6 billion euros worth a day. And that money's gone. I mean, it's not like that was all money coming into the Chancellor of the Exchequer. It doesn't work like that. But obviously with every trade, there's a bit of tax to pay. There's people being employed. There's the officers. There's the rent. There's the sandwich shops that supply the officers and all that kind of stuff. Gone. All that trade, gone. And it won't come back. It's the thing I say about the assets, the fact that the UK has been asset stripped. And those assets are not going to come back. It's as simple as that. Nothing we can do about it. 1.2 trillion pounds of assets. Banking assets, financial assets. Barclays Bank alone moved 190 billion euros out of this country and put it in Dublin. Barclays is now the biggest bank in Ireland as a result of moving all this capital out. All these assets, I should say. All these assets out of the country. And people say, oh, money moves all the time. And you're like, but Japan deal is better in e-commerce. The Japan deal is a watered-down version of the deal that Japan had with the EU. Watered down for us. The percentage that was given at the time was about 87% in Japan's favour. And as a result of that, we're going to see not as much trade as we would have had with Japan had we stayed in the EU. And obviously, look, Nissan's eyeing the door. They're going to be out of here. Toyota, see you later. Sony, don't even know if they're going to bother staying at this rate. Because we've put up barriers to trade. And the deal we got with the EU doesn't cover services. And 80% of our economy is services. So, you know, it doesn't give us anything. And this paltry amount given to the fishermen that I think it was like 100 million and then they cut it down to like 50 million. Now it's like 26 million or something. Just keeps going. I'm laughing, but I'm crying inside. And it just keeps going down. And it's not actually going to help the fishermen work out what forms they've got to fill out, which is what the problem is, according to Boris Johnson. He can't blame Brexit. Obviously, he can't blame himself for being incompetent and getting a really bad deal with the EU. So he's blaming the fishermen for not filling out the forms correctly. But the fact is that a qualified, basically, fish doctor is like a witch doctor, I don't know. A fish doctor has to look at the fish and go, this is healthy fish. And if you can't get that certificate from a medically trained professional in crustaceans, you can't sell your bloody fish. Well, your shellfish. Damn, I mean, and again, it's not teething problems. This is forever. We're up Ship's Creek, says Jim Bob. We are indeed. Rotterdam was the biggest port in the world. Oh, Conservator has been on Wikipedia. I might just know this. Now there are a few bigger ones, mainly Asia. The Asian, the speed at which these ports operate in Singapore and Shanghai and in I'm trying to think of another place, Hong Kong. It's just remarkable because it's all automated now. You basically got an area. I know Brisbane does this. They used to have people going around with forklift trucks in the dock area, in the port area, and they'll go and pick up a container and they'll move it and put it somewhere. Now it's all done by robots, so it's just forklift trucks that just drive themselves. A good place to have a fight, maybe in a Marvel movie, if anyone's watching this from Marvel and wants an idea for somewhere to have a good fight. I know Deadpool already did that kind of thing, but they didn't have the robotic sort of forklift trucks to jump out the way from, like in Logan, where they had the trucks on the road that were driverless. But yeah, essentially they can offload and load about 80 containers every few minutes. I mean, it is just insane the speed that these things work at now, offloading and loading ships. And again, it's something where if we wanted to do this, if we wanted to become a real shipping power, and we could invest in shipping. We could have made it so that Britain became a very attractive proposition on a par with Rotterdam for being able to get stuff from around the world that needs to get into the EU, come to Britain first. We could be the hub for anything coming across the Atlantic, for instance. But we've thrown all that away now. We've just thrown it away. We could have invested. We could have brought in this new digital, robotic systems for piling the boxes up and all this kind of stuff. But now look at this. Shanghai is now 3 times larger than Rotterdam. Wow, that's insane. Franco was an oppressed gay. Okay. RC says, yes, he's using the name of a popular figure amongst liberal Remainers to have digs, pretending to be Alexa Tia. I'm sorry. I missed what Chuck Sell's saying. Blurg, the gristle in the roast beef, the roast beef. Franco, remember you're trying to explain about the assets we've lost to some morons on Twitter. Great. I was trying to explain about the assets that we lost and just how much money it is. It's just a ridiculous sum of money. And they go, oh, but, money moves all the time. It's like, that money that was available for British investment, that was available for British firms, British businesses, or foreign businesses. It doesn't matter. That those assets were in the UK, and now they're not in the UK. And whatever happened with those assets, whether they sat there, whether they got traded, whether they got moved about, there was always a little bit skimming off the top that went to the tax man. Keep our taxes down, and to keep our children fed, and our schools going, and the NHS, and our bridges service, so they don't collapse. And yet that money is now gone. And it's not coming back. Ever. It is not coming back. Even if we rejoin the EU tomorrow, that money will not come back. It's over. Britain's over. It's dead. It's a dead country walking. A cautionary tale. That's all Britain is going to be going forward. The EU restricts free ports. No, it doesn't. Well, I mean, it's just not, there's no point to them. But there still are free ports in the EU. I think Poland still have some. And like I said, we had them in the UK until 2012. Free port is where you can bring stuff in. Plum Duff is asking what free port is. Basically, you can bring stuff in. It doesn't get checked by customs in the same way that it would if it was being actually brought into the country. So you say, basically, if you're going to have something coming in and then something going out the same port, you say, oh, it's a free port. And the area becomes a sort of exclusive economic zone or something where you can trade sort of duty free in that area. Within the EU, it was a bit pointless. It was like having duty free in the EU. It was like, well, why do we need duty free when I literally can bring as much stuff as I like, as long as it's for personal consumption, ciggies, whiskey, beer, whatever, wine. So there was no point in having duty free because we had like so much of it. So having a free port where most of the stuff coming into our country would then go either just somewhere in our country or out to the EU, it just seemed a pointless thing to have. It was just daft because the taxes are obviously all paid in once you bring stuff into the customs union, or any country within the customs union, they'll check it for customs and then that's it. So it doesn't need to be checked again. So, but now we can have free ports again, and they would probably be better than not having a free port at all, because obviously if we're going to take customs duties and check everything coming in, and then it's going to be sent out again to the EU, that'll add time and expense to shipping stuff, so no one's going to do that. But even in a free port situation, there's literally no point, because effectively within the EU, all of these port places are free ports, because you bring stuff in, you check them there, and then that's it. There's no more checks after that. It's fine. Just move it around the EU. So you can become a distributing centre to the EU in a way that you could do it, I guess, as a free port in the UK. But then you do have to do some checks. You can't just allow a load of explosives or drugs to turn up. And then you put it back on another ship. It goes off to the EU. It gets checked again. So you're doubling up your time and your money, basically, to move stuff around. So you're not going to do it. You're not going to bring stuff to free ports in the UK, especially as our single market has reduced from the size of the EU, which was over half a billion people, and a GDP of 17 or 18 trillion dollars a year, down to a population of 60 million. Half a billion, 60 million. Because our single market, our internal market, is now just the size of Great Britain. It doesn't even encompass Northern Ireland. I did a voluntary in a charity shop, and the retail made commentary like we should have done like in Spain and asked money to rescue the EU. I don't really understand that. Franco Puni, and you think the rest of the world will perform special favours for the EU? For the UK? Well, no. Joint free port bid for Felixstowe and Harwich, Ipswich, north of Clacton-on-Sea. I mean, fine, but the thing is, if you have free ports elsewhere in the world, it makes sense, because anything coming into, say, Singapore goes somewhere else usually. They don't need that much stuff themselves, whereas we're going to be bringing stuff into our country, and then if they are going to go on to any other country in the world, those countries are probably going to be part of the EU, or at least the customs union of the EU. So that's our geographical neighbourhood. And it's just bonkers to think that this is going to rescue us from this nightmare that we have at the moment. Graham knows it's the wealthiest and most democratic section of the world right on our doorstep. Well, yeah, obviously the EU is insanely democratic. We have some of the most socialist governments in the world in Europe, and also the EU itself is the only trade bloc in the world that has directly elected representatives from each of the nations in that trade bloc. It's not just some bureaucrats, civil servants that represent us. It's actually directly elected people, which is good in a way because it means that we get a lot of say over we had a lot of say over what happens in the EU. It's bad in another way because it means that clowns like Nigel Farage can get elected and then live a life of Riley off the gravy train pension that they received, that the British taxpayer had to pay for. £39 billion, I think it was, wasn't it? 39 billion we had to pay, divorce settlement with the EU to pay for all the things that we said we'll pay for. £39 billion, worth every penny, obviously. To help pay for people like Farage, who doesn't deserve the money, I don't think. Hello from Northern Ireland, says Rafaela. Did you notice how many items on Amazon are not shipping to the UK, Northern Ireland anymore? Lots of stuff I purchased is now unavailable thanks to Brexit. Yes, I noticed that on Amazon actually, and it was in the run up to Brexit. I was noticing. I don't know if it was just because it was Christmas or anything else, but you were seeing the arrival date of stuff getting pushed back and back and back. Freeport, even if you're on Amazon Prime, all things just weren't on Prime anymore. Graham, I think more than 80% of the UK population does not know what the single market or the customs union is or how it works or the benefits. Now the UK is learning, lol. Yeah, Gene, I agree. I mean, most people don't know this because it's really boring, and I don't think that people should have to know this. I think that the people in charge should be doing all this. I got asked a question the other day when I was on Rob Pierre's channel, and it was, why didn't you do more about austerity? And it really knocked me for six. I was like, I came away thinking, why didn't I do more about austerity? And I thought about it. I thought, well, actually, because I'm not a politician. I wasn't living in the country at the time. I kind of just assumed, erroneously, I will admit, that there were people out there who had the best interests of the country at heart, and they would stand up and say something and do something. And what it is I guess it's this thing from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the somebody else's problem fields that they put around spaceships so you don't see them. And that's how I felt like the problems that Britain was facing while I wasn't even living here. It just felt like somebody else's problem. Someone else would do something. Someone else would stand up and say something. And then I watched, and nothing happened. Nothing changed. In 2015, the Tories won a majority in Parliament after 5 years of austerity that didn't need to happen. And it was actually bad for our economy that it did happen. And I think it was that point I was just like dumbfounded, like what can you do? What can one person do? And so then it led to 2016, and it was just it was just too much. The fact that we voted to leave the very thing that had ensured Britain's prosperity over the last 30, 40 years. Don't forget, when we joined the EU in 1973, or the precursors to the EU, the EEC, we were on our arse. We had begged twice. We had applied twice to join our neighbours in France and West Germany. And twice we had been rebuffed. They said, no, I'm sorry, you can't join. You'd just be a pain in the arse. And so in 1973, we joined. Ireland joined. Denmark joined. And we were facing one of the most cripplingly uneconomic periods in Britain's post-war history. The 1970s were an absolute nosedive for the British economy. And we were desperate. How desperate. We went to the IMF in 1976 and begged for the biggest bailouts in human history. In human history. And that was given to us by the IMF. Go and have a look at the IMF loan crisis or whatever they call it. And then in the 80s, as a member of the EEC, as a member of one of the founding members of the single market, the customs union, we started getting back on our feet. And it wasn't because Thatcher bloody privatised everything. I mean, she privatised too much, arguably. And even now, I've got no idea why water companies and trains are privatised, but there you go. And then in the 90s, 1992, that's the birth of the EU. And this othering of the EU that we see a lot of. The EU did this, the EU did that, the EU show me on the doll where the bad EU hurt you. And you think, oh, they must be other people. They're not, they're us. We were a founding member of the European Union. It only came into effect after the Maastricht Treaty of 1992. We were a founding member and a senior partner, one of the 3 senior partners of this amazing international trade bloc that was the most democratic trade bloc that the world has ever seen, and still is the most democratic trade bloc that the world has ever seen. And we went great guns until the credit crunch, which affected every other country in the world. Credit crunch and the war the war in Iraq, which spilled over, eventually meaning refugees coming from these countries that were torn apart from war, which we had arguably stirred the pot to start. Unarguably with Iraq, but we faced this situation where it was like, oh, the things aren't as good as we want them to be, which in some ways is fair enough. Then we have 5 years of austerity. And instead of going, why are we doing this to ourselves? We looked at outsiders to blame. We looked at foreigners to blame. Refugees, asylum seekers, the EU. This xenophobia just ran rife through the country. And instead of addressing the problems that Britain had, our own problems, we blamed someone else who wasn't responsible for those problems, said they were responsible for those problems, and now we've made our problems much, much, much worse. It's like we tried to dig ourselves out of a hole, but we just kept digging. We got ourselves a mechanical digger. We dug some more. We just blew a big hole in the surface of the earth, and there's no way we can get back up now. There is literally no way that we can do it. Graham can only imagine trade with the EU. Turquoise. I've been to every country in the world. I'm gonna pull rank on you here. Half our trade is with the EU. That's not because we love the EU or we want to give it hugs and kisses. It's because it's next door to us. It's a thing called economic gravity. It means that you trade more with your neighbours than you do with people on the other side of the world. Okay? Now, you say we only think about trade in the EU. The EU encompasses all of pretty much every single wealthy, large country in Europe. Every single one. Then you've got Switzerland, which is part of Schengen, and Norway, which is also part of Schengen. So the trade with there, it's not as good as it would be if they were EU members, but they do have close affinity. The countries in Europe that are not part of the EU, that don't want to be part of the EU, are Belarus and Russia. Good luck with your trade deals with them. And then we look around the world. Go to the IMF list, as I always say, IMF list of countries with advanced economies, right? Advanced economies like the British economy, because we only produce stuff for affluent people. Have you noticed that? Because I've travelled to every country in Africa. I've travelled to 54 countries in Africa, 55 arguably if you count Western Sahara as a separate country. And those countries had nothing that Britain supplied. Absolutely zero. Zip. Nada. Nothing. Because they wanted cheap food, which we can't supply. They wanted cheap clothing, which we can't supply. They wanted cheap building stuff, which we refuse to supply. And they wanted cheap electronics, which we can't supply. China can. China does. We can't, because we can't make stuff cheap enough. If you tried to make an iPhone in the United Kingdom, it would cost about 15 grand retail price to sell, because it costs so much to make the damn thing. It's only so cheap, relatively. I know iPhones aren't particularly cheap, but it's only that cheap relatively because it's made in absolute vast quantities in places like China, where you can pay someone a pittance for doing quite a highly skilled technical job. Can't do that in the United Kingdom. You can't do it. So those list of advanced economies, 39 of them, count them, it's 39 of them, 30 of them are in Europe. 30. And of the 9 that remain, and I'll tell you what they are, right? There's none of them, not one, in the whole of Latin America. All of Latin America, not one, okay? Caribbean, not a single one. So that's 33 countries, right, of the Americas, of the 35 countries that make up the Americas, they're not advanced economies. And then you've got the 55 countries of Africa, which includes the Seychelles, by the way, and Maldives and Cape Verde and Sao Tome and Principe. None of them have got advanced economies. Not one. Then you've got Asia. There's only 5 in the whole of Asia. In the whole continent of Asia, they have 5. And they are Israel, Taiwan, Singapore, South Korea, Japan. Do you know what's funny about all those countries? The EU's got deals with them. And then it's Australia and New Zealand who have both said they want to have a free trade deal with the EU before Britain gets a look in. So all of the countries that we could conceivably trade with have all sewn up. Canada's got a free trade deal with the EU. And America, under Biden, will get a trade deal in the next 4 years. I guarantee it. Because Biden is pro-Europe. He wants to rebuild his ties with Europe. Because don't forget, there's only 30 countries that are members of NATO. And 21 of them are in the EU. 21 countries, mate. 21 countries where they have sat down and they're better men than you, have said that they will sacrifice their lives fighting for our country. If we get invaded, they will come and they will fight on our behalf. And that's the NATO deal. And there's 30 members and 21 of them are in the EU. So you think, oh yeah, this trade that exists all over the world. Yeah, what are we going to sell? A farmer in Chad? You got some share portfolios? Do you think? Are you going to sell your Nissan Qashqai to someone living up a mountain in Bolivia? Good luck, mate. Go and see the world and then come back here and give me this shit about, yeah, we're going to have trade with other people. I don't know who. I don't know where. I don't know much about the world because I didn't pay attention in school. Well, I did pay attention. Got a degree in history and politics. Visited every country in the world. So there's a chance, just a little tiny chance, that I might know a bit more about this topic than you do. Or anyone who voted for Brexit. Not the people who pushed it. Obviously, they know all this shit. And they're just disaster capitalist asset strippers looking out to get as much money out of the downfall of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland as they can. So yeah, shipping. Basically, we could turn our country into a big free port, but it'd be absolutely worthless because it would only give us the same sort of advantages that we had in the EU, but actually it wouldn't give us many advantages because we couldn't basically check everything into the UK and then just spread it all around Europe like some kind of disease, virus. Coronavirus. Instead, we would have to come into the UK and you'd have a little free port area and maybe have some duty free there. So you don't have to pay VAT, you don't have to pay this, you don't have to pay customs duty if you buy stuff in that little area, which is great for, I don't know, international shipping people, but not so great for the locals in that area. And we see this time and time again. Look at any free port in the EU, it just became a bit pointless. So they went, no, sack it off. We used to have free ports until 2012. We sacked it off. Anyway, right, I am going to pack it in, I think. Oh, I've gone off again. Very sorry for turning off there. Teco is just saying the UK is joining the Pacific Partnership. Great. Fantastic. Do you want to get out a map of the world? No, a globe. Globe will be better. Get yourself a globe and have a look where the UK is, and then have a look where the Pacific Ocean is, and then have a word with yourself. Because the only way we can get stuff to the Pacific Ocean, anything we make, would be through the Suez Canal, through the Panama Canal. Take a bloody long time. But we can join this partnership, which isn't as good as the EU, and we can trade with China, which is absolutely massive compared with us, instead of trading with countries like France and Germany, which used to be on a kind of level economic field as we were. But no, we will be bossed around by the big boys. Yeah, can't wait. Japan, twice the GDP, twice the population of the United Kingdom. And if they say jump, we will say how high. You talk about the EU making it difficult for us, for governments, giving this idea that state funding of private assets, they wanted to stop that. They don't want to stop it, but they say, look, there's got to be a limit. The government can't just give money to failing businesses that then therefore make stuff and then undercut everybody else because they're being propped up by the government, which is fair enough. So they said, look, we're going to restrict state subsidies, and everyone whinged about this. Well, some people did. And meanwhile, we'd already signed a deal with Japan for stricter state subsidies measures against state subsidies or limiting them with Japan a few months ago. We already signed that in that deal. We are joining the Pacific Partnership. Yes, the Pacific is still on the other side of the world. What part of this don't you understand? Do you know how long it takes to get on a cargo ship from the UK to the other side of the world? What product do you possibly have that can still retain its value over that kind of distance, except maybe Scotch whiskey? And Scotland will be independent within, I was going to say the decade, but it's not even going to be that long, within the next 24 months by the way things are going. UK selling glass beads going backwards, yeah. You have to talk it down because it's all you can do. No, I can do loads of stuff, mate. I'm really talented. See, so I don't have to talk down the Pacific Partnership. I mean, that's great for countries in the Pacific, but economic gravity dictates that their trade with us is going to be negligible because that's just the way of the world. China, India, Brazil, Russia, South Africa, put all those countries together, and we trade more with the Republic of Ireland, which has a fraction of the population because of economic gravity. That's the way it works. If you have a shop, you're more likely to sell stuff to people in your village, not to people in a village on the other side of the world. Do you see? Is this complicated? Am I losing people here? Am I talking some kind of economic jargon that's impossible to comprehend? Wealthy countries next door. We were part of a group with them. Wealthy countries, democratic countries, most of them socialist-leaning countries. And we sacked all that off to have a jolly great Pacific trade deal with the likes of China, which is currently committing human rights atrocities against Democrat lovers in Democrat protesters, I should say, activists in Hong Kong, and also the Uyghurs in northwest China, who, by all accounts, are being forced into forced labour camps. Nice. I don't hear that happening in Spain or Portugal or Finland or Sweden. I don't hear about forced labour camps in Poland. Maybe there are some. I just never heard about them now. Something that the Nazis did. And now we get the usual, the single market is in decline. Yeah. So this is like basically someone in, I don't know, the 1700s, maybe. Ooh, how about King George III, who went on and on about how the newly independent United States of America would invariably fail without the support of Britain. Yeah, how did that go? Anyway, right, I kept you on there for a few more minutes because I stole, well, the internet stole a couple of minutes from you through the stream, so apologies for that. I'm going to try and get my tech stuff sorted out so I'm not on Wi-Fi and I actually have a cable going into my laptop so I can achieve full broadband fiber goodness and be able to broadcast to you without interruption. We can continue this conversation tomorrow, Turquoise, if you would like. Again, Franco Pini says, where's your proof that the single market is in decline? Well, there is none. I mean, Britain's standing in the world ranking in terms of economies is going down. We were fifth. Now we've been overtaken by France and by India. We're now seventh. We're going to drop out. Going to go much lower. Soon we'll be out of the G7. Then we'll be out of the G20. And it'll all because of Brexit. Because this is Brexit reality. That way. Right, okay. The UK has here we go. UK has a £38 billion surplus with USA on WTO terms. Yeah, that's a fraction of our trade with the EU. What part of this don't you understand? We're talking 2 billion a week with the EU. A week. That's over 100 billion a year. I mean, just what? It's like we have these trade deals around the world with all these countries that we want trade deals with, and we can make them whatever we want, really. Through the EU, we had the muscle of 500 million people, customers, potential customers, for those people who wanted to sell stuff, because no one sets up a trade deal because they want to buy things. I mean, Brexiteers do because they're dickheads and they don't understand how things work. And they go, I'm going to set up a shop and just buy things. And then they're going to need me more than I need them. And everyone goes, what? Where's your brain? What are you talking about? Well, you know, where's the German car industry? I thought it was going to come over the hill and rescue us all. It's pathetic. It's really pathetic. But the idea that £38 billion worth of trade is somehow... It's somehow, we'll sacrifice like 1.2 trillion pounds of assets so we can trade with this country that is massive. It's way bigger than us. Instead of being part of something, a partnership, we're basically the junior partner in a tyrannical relationship in which the US, China, both massively, massively bigger than we are, call the shots. Instead of us calling the shots, which is how it used to be. But there you go. You know, we buy stuff, so they need us, don't they? Not really. Graham for a senior Labour minister. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I swear too much. And I'm a little bit too honest to be a politician, unfortunately. Hence the swear words. South Korea cars are more reliable. German cars are overpriced. Okay. Not the cost and terms you had with the EU. Anyway, listen, I've got to get going now. Tell me that we should only bother with the EU. No, Turquoise. I just said that's where most of the wealthy countries in the world are. They're in the EU, right next to us. So I'm not saying don't bother with countries on the other side of the world that don't have shit. I mean, I like some of them. I mean, most of them I like. They're great. But when we have a trade minister who proudly announces that we have a trade deal with Papua New Guinea and Mongolia, and I'm like, so we're sacrificing our trade, which can be measured in the hundreds of billions with Europe, and we're going to sacrifice that for trade that can be measured in sticks and stones from Papua New Guinea or Mongolia, I think. See, that's the problem. These countries are not just small and far away. Some of them are quite big. Mongolia is quite a big country. They're very poor and very far away. So just think about it this way. Imagine Harrods decided to brick up the doorways in London and say we are only going to trade a little fishing village in Indonesia. And you're like, but the people in that little fishing village in Indonesia don't have much money, mate. Yeah, but they're going to want my stuff. How are they going to pay for it? And that's the final question. We're looking for customers around the world. Most of the customers for our stuff congregated in our neighbourhood, geographically in our neighbourhood. And we're telling them to F off so we can trade with poor people on the other side of the planet who can't afford the stuff that we make. None of it. If anyone can come up with a thing where it says, right, so someone can come up in the comments before I go with a commodity that someone in a poor fishing village in Indonesia could afford that Britain makes, I'm all ears. Anyway, right, I'm getting off now because I said I was going to get off. Oh, I'm on fire. Someone said I'm on fire. That's Adam Wright said I'm on fire, and then my internet went off again. So I'm very sorry for my internet glitch there. But I will return tomorrow at 1 o'clock. But if you're interested in talking about travel and about geopolitics and about the history of Algeria, tonight at 10 o'clock, live and hopefully uninterrupted, I will be talking about the history of Algeria. I'll be talking about Algeria as a country, what it's like to go there, what the people are like, what the food's like. And it's all part of my series called Hughes of the World, in which I tell you about every country in the world in alphabetical order, starting with Afghanistan, which was a couple of weeks ago. And then last week I did Albania. So this week I'm doing Algeria. And I'm sure it'll be more interesting than next week's one, which will be about Andorra. I don't know how I'm going to fill up an hour talking about bloody Andorra, but I'm going to give it a go. Right, anyway, so I will speak to you all tomorrow. If you've got any more comments, save them. Save them till tomorrow. I haven't got any comments telling me that that there's a commodity that Britain sells that some poor person in Indonesia will be able to afford. If someone can come up with that, that'd be great. String. Maybe do we make string? I don't know. You've also got to factor in the shipping costs. Shipping. Right. Anyway, so I'm getting off. I think Sakia and Graham as Home Secretary would make a great combination. I'm only a member of Labour because I want to change the constitution to allow basically the MPs to stand down, candidates to stand down in areas where the Labour Party is not going to win, in order to help candidates from the Greens, Lib Dems, Plaid Cymru and the SNP. Right, I am going now. So I will see you tonight at 10 o'clock if you're interested in travel. If you just want to rant about Brexit, please turn up tomorrow, 1 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel. And until then, I will say hello, good evening.